Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Daily Eye Show live. Appreciate you being here. Today is October 30th, 2025, and I'm joined by Beth and Andy. I'm Brian, and today we're going to dive into some news topics. I was not here yesterday, and I thought, oh boy, we're going to dive right in. And I think I saw that Andy, you and Jyunmi and Karl might have already covered some of the stuff from OpenAI, but nonetheless, we'll talk about some of that stuff because I watched that yesterday. And then we got like sort of two other topics. One of the segments going to be talking about Transformers. There's been a little bit of hate on Transformers lately. No, not like Autobots Transformers, but obviously Transformers that kind of kicked off from a very, very influential paper back in 2017 called "Attention Is All You Need." So some of the co-authors of that paper are now saying, we've heard this a lot, hey, Transformers aren't going to get us where we need to go. So we're going to talk about why there's a little bit of pushback and hate, but for all the right reasons, probably. So we'll get into that. And then there is a new Google experiment, a Google Labs tool called Pomeli. Nope, no two P's, Pomeli. See, even when I read it, I knew I was going to get it wrong, Beth. I even switched over to the screen and still put the second P in there. Pomeli, two L's in there. That is really cool. And so it's sort of, I love what Google does with experiments. They're like, hey, maybe this is something. And then they just throw it out in Google Labs in their experiments and people play. And sometimes these things reach the mainstream and sometimes they don't. We've seen some really cool ones that have just never kind of made it into the big leagues, which I'm going to call either it got rolled into Notebook LM or it got rolled into Gemini or several other tools that sort of are the big league ones. So we're going to talk about that tool because I did get it to run. I will tell you, if you go try to run it right now, you might run into some bandwidth issues. It says right away, hey, we have a lot of people trying to use this tool. Somebody was talking about it on TikTok this morning. That's how I learned about it. So I'm not quite sure when it rolled out, but clearly I think enough people are talking about it these last couple of hours. It's been a little good. So I did get it to run with a website. We'll talk about that. So that's what we have going on today. So I would love to kick it off because I did miss yesterday's show. Beth, I think you were out yesterday too. So Andy, fill us in here. Did you guys, I watched like a 1 hour live OpenAI thing that had Sam and two other gentlemen in it. And they sort of talked about their vision of where they want to take the company. They also talked about it going, how they were splitting it so part of it could go public. And then they did like a Ask Me Anything sort of towards the end there, where Sam was quite literally reading off of wherever it was, Reddit or wherever the questions were coming in for that. Maybe it was just YouTube. And then things were getting upvoted and he was answering it. Did you guys, I imagine that would have happened after the show though. So did you guys talk about that or had that news already been released earlier in the day?
Well, we knew that they had succeeded in doing the transformation of the organization design from, the original nonprofit form to now a foundation, which is highly capitalized because of its ownership of a stake in the OpenAI for-profit entity. It's a public benefit corporation, and that one is now open for business and for making profit, and that clears the way for these massive investments from SoftBank and others into that for-profit entity. So yeah, we had talked about that we were a little surprised because the day before we were thinking that the announcement from SoftBank that their further investment accumulating to tens of billions of dollars,
41 billion,
was contingent on them succeeding in accomplishing that transition by the end of the year. And I'm saying, what? It's almost November. They're never going to do it.
That was Monday.
And then the next day,
Thursday.
The next day, it's done. So
it shows you what we know. That's okay. That's I won't jump to it because we can talk about this news story too. I want to stay on OpenAI for a second, but that's funny. I like literally on Monday I talked about $4 trillion companies, and I was like, and NVIDIA is 4.6 trillion. They're over 5 trillion. It's Thursday. What happened? What happened between Monday and Thursday? On Monday, I was like, they're 4.6 trillion. And I was like, ooh, they're the biggest company in the world.
It was quite compelling what they talked about, ranging from their play in quantum to, which was big because it was simultaneously announced that 7 major labs, government labs, are actually joining in collaboration with NVIDIA to further their quantum research. So that really puts a whole new layer of potential revenue onto the NVIDIA forecasts. But in addition, the forecast was for next year alone, 500 billion in existing orders in their book. I mean, it's phenomenal what NVIDIA is doing there.
Mind-boggling numbers, to say the least. But yeah, just anyway, so the laugh I had was like, we're like, oh, OpenAI is running out of runway here for this year or whatever, and then it was like, 2 days later, and then the same thing with NVIDIA, like, oh, they're the biggest company in the world at 4.6 trillion. Oh no, never mind, they're 5. Like they added $500 billion worth of valuation. I mean, not in 4 days, literally, but kind of.
Well, to go back to what you're going to talk about in segment 2, right?
Yeah.
So attention is all you need. Maybe not for AI, but for valuation, it seems like it's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's right.
So maybe these are like we'll sort of weave back and forth between these stories because look, OpenAI seems to be doing more of these. Like I would say in the past, we would get sort of what felt like a live YouTube announcement was happening maybe every couple of months. Now, between what they do with coding and their sort of live vibe coding things, if you go to their YouTube channel, they actually have quite a few that they put out. And I feel like I've seen Sam on videos 3 times in in October, maybe. So which is ramped up. The only time we've ever seen anything similar to that was 12 days of OpenAI last year, and we don't know if they're going to do something like that again. I would imagine it was pretty successful for them. Kept a lot of attention on them. Speaking of staying on that word, but what I saw yesterday as I watched it was, number one, the gentleman that was sitting next to Sam, not the co-founder, he was the first guy that was sitting next to Sam, is not a dead ringer for Elon Musk, but man, oh man, do they look like they could be brothers. That's all I could think of. It's all I could think of is like, this guy is, so it's like, he's not Elon Musk, obviously, but he just has a very similar look, and even his cadence of the way he spoke. I appreciated this guy it was of no concern to him that this was like a live video, because I promise you, I'm not making fun of him. I mean, he's obviously, he was thinking deeply, but Sam would ask him a question. And I mean, in terms of dead air, and if you look back at Sam's face, Sam's not doing anything wrong, by the way. He's just turning and looking directly at him. But this would go on for like 15 seconds while the other gentleman, which I should know his name, but he was just ruminating on the, and then he would come out with a really thoughtful answer. And I thought, oh, good for you. You're not trying to fill dead space. You're trying to actually answer the question Sam is posing. And it was about AGI. It was about, GPT-6. It was about, all these kind of questions people had or whatever. And so what I really took away was, one, pivot away from AGI, which I think I already saw somebody in the comments talk about, which is that doesn't seem to be the path forward. They got this new dawn, this new, split, thought. You have they have the one side that's going to be managing the for-profit, that's going to be investing. They talked a ton about scientific research. Is that his name? Jacob Pachoki? Yeah, not trying the last name. We're going to stick with Jacob. I don't think that's him, though. Oh, no, that was the name of the person. Jesus, Brian.
Yes, the chat is giving you
the chat.
Does anybody want to take over? I don't think I can do this. Holy moly. I looked at if anybody's wondering what the hell just happened, I said, I don't think that's him, as I looked at the person in the chat image and I said, yeah, that doesn't look like the guy. I said, in my brain, I thought, that's not what the guy looked like on YouTube yesterday, despite the fact that he was just giving me his name. So thank you.
So the name of the individual is Jacob Pachoki, who does not, in fact, look like Jeff Spalding,
right,
who gave the name of.
We know Jeff. Sorry, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
Holy mackerel! All right, there we go. You gotta have some fun on the days, and my brain is mush by Thursday sometimes. Anyway,
Okay, so
my big takeaway here was just simply, so I'll wrap my part up, is just simply say my big takeaway was pivot away from AGI, talk a lot about scientific research. They put out 2 dates. One was September of 2026 to have essentially not an autonomous, but like a very reliable scientific AI assistant agent, if you will. And then they put out March, I think it was, of 2028. I'd have to double check that date, but it was 2028 that they felt was a time that we would see an autonomous research agent. And they spent a lot of time on the scientific discovery side. I don't think that's necessarily bad, but it definitely seemed like, hey, we want the focus to be about the nonprofit and all the good it's going to be. Yes, there's also going to be this for profit. Yes, we're probably going to go for an IPO. Yes, we're going to do these other things or whatever. But also, we're going to spend billions and get scientific research where it needs to be. So that was sort of like the takeaway I took from it. Some movement there, some strategic wordplay, I think, was involved in that, as we've seen before with OpenAI. What did you guys think? Or go to another topic. I don't need it. Whatever.
Go OpenAI. I want to move on to what's happening today, and not at OpenAI, but we talked about just how much valuation increment happened for NVIDIA. Well, today Meta's lost approximately the same amount. So Meta did their third quarter earnings announcements yesterday, and they missed their earnings in a big way, despite the fact that the revenue was growing, and they had a $50 billion quarter. So anyway, today, just to put it into perspective, their stock price had reached around $800 in April, and approximately April of this year. And then it's been up and around 750 just as recently as a few days ago, it seems. And right now, Meta is at 660, down about 12% this morning as a result of what happened yesterday in their earnings call.
Did you say 660 or 600?
Yeah, 600 is right at this moment. It's 667.
Oh, that's just barely not the Antichrist, if anybody's paying attention.
Right. Now, so what that means is, so Meta's market cap overall, Meta is a huge company, right? I mean, this is Facebook, WhatsApp, etc., Instagram. That their value overall is about 1.6 trillion right now. Okay, compared to 5 trillion for I think what is it? It's NVIDIA, Apple, and others are encroaching on that number, but that's how different the valuation is for NVIDIA compared to Meta. Meta kind of swirling and scrambling, trying to catch up in many ways in the world of AI. NVIDIA, the 800-pound gorilla in the world of AI on almost every front. And that's the difference. 5 trillion for them, 1.6 for Meta.
And I know all this stuff matters, and I'm certainly no financial person, really, honestly. But like you said, Meta's not circling the drain. They missed their projections, but I think you pointed out they're still growing. They still had profit in there and stuff like that. It's just in this, let's call it a bit of a bubble of AI. There's a lot of expectations for these companies, with Meta smart glasses and things that they have going on. And, they seem to be, if they were a baseball team, I would say they're in their rebuilding year, Meta. And so there's a lot of moving around, and who's in the super intelligence team and who's not in the super intelligence team. And obviously he hired, and frankly, I think just like Google a year or two ago, seemed to scramble a bit to try to get their footing, and now they seem to be pushing products all the time, as we're going to talk about today with Pomeli. But the I think Meta is going to be fine. I think they've got some really cool, innovative things, but I heard him say too that Mark Zuckerberg say it is a weird thing that our product is on our rivals' systems. Facebook is on a Google device or whatever. And so there was a funny thing where the guy was kind of trying to trap him. The interviewer was trying to trap him. And Mark goes, "Man, you're really trying to get me in trouble here," or whatever. And then he kind of pauses. And then it's the CEO. I'm not going to say his name. The CEO of Microsoft. And he just goes, "He's pretty cool." And left out like 2 other names. And then the people in the audience just kind of cracked up because he was like, there was nowhere to go with it. And he has better interesting relationships. He's like, but they're in so many words awkward, and you're like, That's Mark Zuckerberg of a $1 trillion, the head of a $1+ trillion company. Let's not sneeze at that. Yeah, okay, NVIDIA might be 5, but a $1 trillion company is the upper echelon. And, Mark Zuckerberg's been leading it now for 20 plus years. And, just to hear him talk kind of like a everyday average Joe, and he's like, yeah, that could be awkward at times because it's also our competitor. And that's a lot of what we see is this like sort of incestuous AI right now. Like, oh, I need to build a competing plan or product to NVIDIA, but I also need NVIDIA chips or vice versa, whatever. So that seemed to be a lot of OpenAI's talk yesterday with Sam was like, we diversify. We do not play with just any one place or, whatever. We've got data centers going up all over the place, so on and so forth. By the way, they wanted to get to their goal is 1 gigawatt of a data center that could do 1 gigawatt a week was the big goal. And he's like, it would take a lot of investment to get there. We're not there today, but he's like, that's kind of where we feel like we need to be in the near term or something. So that was interesting to hear about. Essentially, he was saying it's going to take billions of dollars and more investment and things. And that was part of the reason. Okay. Any non-OpenAI, NVIDIA stories or any news we want to hit real quick? By the way, Karl joined us.
Yeah. Just the because there was the launch of the Neo home robot. It was very interesting. Marquise Brownlee had his video on it, and he was and his
does he have one? No.
What? No.
Like okay.
Okay, so he was just commenting on it, and if you actually watch the video, and then he did a video on it, and he can literally like crush companies just by like a terrible review, right? We've seen
the AI pin.
Yeah,
I don't know what the EV. There was an EV one. He did one too, and he just wiped that one out too.
Yeah.
His mention was, I'll read you his tweet. He goes, so to be clear, this is a pre-order for a humanoid home robot that will cost $20,000 or $500 a month when it maybe ships next year and currently is not finished. So he is like, Joanna Stern did the demo in the current state, and there's a link to YouTube, and 100% of its actions are teleoperated. I see this as more of a hype reel for a thing that they're hoping to be able to make someday, which is becoming so common with a product these days. That was a pretty there's a lot of I think 1,000 comments on it, 26,000 likes on just that.
Yeah.
And I forgot the guy whoever is the head of 1X responded to it, and Marquise was like going back and forth. So it was very interesting what he mentioned. But if you watch the video though, you're like, okay, even if it's teleoperated, like just the dishwasher scene alone, you're like, this thing is like, it had a very hard time closing that dishwasher. Like, very hard time closing that dishwasher.
Yeah, and that's somebody with remote control somewhere doing it.
Yes, that's right. So I was like, yeah. It's just, I thought that was funny. Then people came out defending. It's like, this is the amount of tech. I was like, that's great. But again, that reel that we saw, it's a 9-minute reel. And it's so many fast cuts to it.
Yeah.
Like, hold on a second. Can it do what you actually saying? Like, can it do it? And if it's,
it's probably not standing up on its own right now or something. You know what I mean? Like they're so far away with these hype reels. It's ridiculous. And I get it. They're trying to get money invested or whatever, but surely people have been burned and have seen this before. And they're like, oh, even at the cyber cab announcement or whatever, we found out after the fact that a lot of the bartender Optimus was being operated by somebody, at least partially.
Yes.
Okay.
It's ridiculous.
But there's a part that then I don't entirely get. Greg is saying that it might be vaporware. I don't know if it's vapor bot. I don't know what it is when it's not wear. But I feel like, so the $200 deposit, there were a lot of people who were like putting down the $200 deposit is apparently refundable. And there's a part of me that understands that you're doing sort of the rabbit model, right? Like, ooh, this is $200. Everybody's willing to get a piece of it for $200, but you don't make it refundable. Like, why don't you have a little figurine that you're going to send me that costs you 20 cents to make and $1 to ship? Right? Like there's a part of this that is just like, so are you planning to close a company? Do you believe that you're going to have a $500 thing that's going to struggle with dishwashers? Or like, for another $1,500 a month, you could have someone who teleoperates it for you instead of you actually doing the remote control of the robot in your kitchen, which is, I guess it's better than standing and doing dishes, but it's not a lot better than standing and doing dishes, right? If you're controlling it with a little.
I think some of these comments are funny. Gareth said you come home and all your appliances are busted.
Yes,
And then June was like, the dishwasher was like, let's go, dummy. I like the idea of the dishwasher being a little smarter with AI than the Neo. And the dishwasher's like, you want me to do it? I can close it myself. No, you got it. You got it. You got a hand.
How does it
You
know?
got it. The dishwasher is just like step back. It closes its own door and starts itself. It's like idiot. I had this AI ability 2 years ago, Neo. You're still standing there like an idiot in the room, But anyway, I won't be investing or buying or pre-ordering or anything. For anything that looks like a hype reel of somebody who's effectively playing with a large remote control robot. No, thank you. I wish them well, but Jesus.
Well, so Andrea was saying, how does it know where the dishes are going? She's like, and I was like, yeah, you come home and like the plates are on that side, the cups are here, and it's like, what? Like, how does it know? Like, are you programming? Like, is it like this goes here? But then it'll get confused because it's like, is this is a water bottle, so I will put it here. And I was like, you know what? I'll just do it myself. It's just, if you have to say, you know what, I'll just do it myself, then this whole thing is off.
Okay.
Right.
But on the
a whole bunch of you going, move, Neo.
Yes, move. I'll do it.
I'll do it myself.
It's so dumb. Like, get out of the way.
On the plus, if it has in its training data all of the things that say not dishwasher safe, that might actually be somewhat worth it.
That's the new test. Can you close the dishwasher? That's the new test. That is.
Look, I'm 48. I've been loading and unloading dishwashers for a long time now, or whatever, and I still screw up when I have a glass that I don't realize is half full of water, and I just move it to the dishwasher and throw the water all over the ground. Hold on while we get everybody back. 1 second. This probably means there's going to be an after show. There's Beth. Hold on. Ruining our fun. There's Karl. All right, we're all back. We got kicked out. You got to love it. That probably means there'll be an after show. We'll see if that happens at the end here since that happened, but hopefully everybody's mics still work. Let's just do a mic check. Beth, you good?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think I heard Andy and Karl. Are you good?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, we get it. Anyway, yes, the Neo thing or whatever, it should be interesting. But I know the last thing I want to say, Karl, is they even said this too. They're like, if the Neo doesn't fully understand what you needed to do, you can just call in somebody from somewhere around the world who now has direct vision out of the Neo into your personal space to help it go through the steps that you need so it learns. So you're like talking about the dishes and stuff like that, and I'm like, so you'd be like, you're still getting your, okay, call them in, like the commercials, call in the backup quarterback. They're like, all right, call in Teddy Bridgewater. Oh, you probably aren't seeing those in Canada. But anyway, they're funny commercials, Karl.
No, then does that mean the robot's like, oh, hi, this is Bill from tech support. He's controlling your robot. It's like, how can I help you? Put the goddamn dishes away. And he's like, oh, let me do that. I was like, what? I was like, what? That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Yep. Yeah. They're already preempting by saying, like, when it fails, we'll call in tech support from somebody who's not being paid enough to take your abuse that you're giving to Neo through the customer service into the bot. Somebody's going to have to deal with that. The only difference is they can see in your home. I hope you're cool with that. I hope everybody's fine with that, as it does a 360 of your house. And it can now see everything that's around you, your kids. Yeah, let's think about this, people. Let's think about the help we want in our house. And if we're just going to spend more time telling it did it wrong. Although I will say this, and I've pointed this out before, for my father-in-law, could be the best investment ever, because he does love to yell at appliances and tell it that they're incapable of doing the things that he wants them to do. So having a Neo in the house might be his best friend. That might be the best.
You know what people will end up doing though? They'll be like, forget the actual robot. I'm just gonna keep asking the customer service person. It's like, hey, can you take control? And I'd be like, hey, can you take out the recycling? It doesn't know, right? So you get that to do it. You stop, and then you call. You do not use the AI. You just use a person somewhere else, literally having you like essentially your
remote control,
butler, like just a teleoperated butler. Fantastic. I don't mind.
And then you come in and you're like, hey, so I can make an agent for you custom that will run your custom robot.
Yes.
And all you have to do is pay me another $500 a month. So now you have because you already sunk costs, right?
That's a hilarious business model. So it's not actually AI. It's just a bunch of people in another country operating the drones while you're telling it what to do. Like,
I mean, it's basically Fiverr in your house. Like, right? When you do like tasks, you say like, look, I'm super busy. And then you're like, call in Neo. But all it really is Neo being remote controlled from an external place. And you're like, listen, this is going to need to get cleaned up. And then the person's like, all right, that'll be, I'm going to charge you. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good with Neo. I have certifications in how to operate Neo in your house.
Pretty good. I have 5 years experience.
That's right. I also have a upskill where I can navigate stairs and, wet climates. So I'm pretty good with towels. So that's my run rate is $5 an hour, and I'll operate your Neo to take care of this. And you're like, sold.
Yeah, sold. I'm done. No problems. This is what we've come to.
Just charge my account. At the end of it, they're like, Mister, you have a running balance of 15,000. You're like, I didn't ask it to do that much. And they're like, you literally did nothing. You just talked to us all day and asked us to outsource this to our new Fiverr program.
Oh my God. Anyway. That's such a good business model.
Oh my God, I could talk about this all day. Okay, so let's pivot here.
I thought you were going to. I was pretty much.
And he put down his notes about Transformers. He put them across the desk. He's like, this ain't happening. This isn't happening today. It's gonna be a Halloween thing.
A little shade from Andy coming out of the dark.
I know.
Just a little. But Andy, I do want to add one last news item.
Okay. Here. No, please.
One last news item here. Character AI, as of November 25th, next month, is going to restrict voice interaction, chat interaction with chat bots to people who are under 18 years old. So what is character AI all about? It's all about young people creating a character or engaging with a character that someone else built and talking to those characters. And they're having to step back from that. And they're going to make it so that if you're under 18, and there'll be age verification requirements now on Character AI, one of the largest platforms for human interaction with AI. The teens will only be able to generate content such as videos with their characters. They won't be able to talk to them. What? So the reason is that there's been a number of mental health questions that come about. Remember yesterday we talked about ChatGPT strengthening their responses in sensitive conversations where, they identify that there's somebody who's potentially thinking about self-harm, et cetera, and really trying to refine the therapeutic approach that the assistant can take and advice to the correspondent there about what they should do to actually seek a real human mental health professional. Well, there's a lot of problems that happen in this character AI world. And there's a bunch of examples in this announcement that I read from the BBC about this, that show just how bad things can get, when, a character is created by someone that's representing a person, a real live person, because that's what you can do in character AI. You can talk to Einstein, you can talk to, celebrities, etc. Well, anyway, a social media expert commenting in that BBC article said that this is a wake-up call for the AI industry, which is shifting now from permissionless innovation to post-crisis regulation. You see this reaction that this huge company, Character Eye, has to take. So when a platform like that, which is building for teens, has to pull the plug on that, it's saying that filtering chats is just not enough here. They're having to restrict the use of their AI platform. And so, this is all about the discussions that we've had where AI can mimic real relationships and confuse people whose neocortex isn't fully developed yet. It doesn't happen until the age of 25. And this can lead to really serious problems, mental health problems for the youth who are interacting with them.
Gareth brought up and he said, this looks like the early days of social media and we don't truly know the impacts. I would agree. It's like we're building the plane while we're flying it, and that happened with social media. It moves so fast. And then there's been many, many studies now, but sometimes the studies also take years, if not decades in some cases, to truly unpack what's going on. So it sounds like that's, there's a lot of adjustment. I won't circle back to it because I think we need to move on. But I would say when Sam was talking yesterday, this topic came up quite a bit, not literally character.ai, but the idea of allowing adults to use it in adult ways. He talked about it circled into 4.0 and how they feel like they have better models, but people are like, you're not going to get rid of 4.0, right? Right? And he said, I understand that 4.0 has been good for a lot of people, but we're concerned that it has some tendencies. He used these words, I'm paraphrasing, but he said it, that it can have some negative impacts for people who, he had a polite way of saying it, but people who have some mental concerns or otherwise, 4.0 can be problematic, straight up. And so they felt like they had better models, but they understand why people also love it. Good things, models come with good things. They can also do bad things. And so he actually talked about that quite a bit, and it came up quite a bit. In fact, he was saying, I'm going to skip over some of these questions because we already answered them. And they were about that, letting adults do adult things. He even said in there really quick that he felt like he misstepped when he mentioned he was talking more generally, but he brought up erotica, and he felt like that was completely misinterpreted for, hardcore porn or something like that. And that's not what his intent was. He goes, but he's like, one of my many mistakes is that I thought people could distinguish between the two when I was mentioning one versus the other. And people, of course, took it to the extreme. And that's not what he said the intent was. It was just simply to allow adults to do adult things and have the right to do it. So.
And this is actually a topic that we'll come back to in another show, but Character is talking about restricting it below the age of 18, right? So you have to be 18 or above to have the conversation with voice on Character. The majority of people who were having conversations about 4.0 and you can't do this to me were not under the age of 18. Right? That's not going to happen.
Sure.
And I would bet the majority of those people would also pass are you able to distinguish reality enough that we can trust you to have a conversation with the AI with 4.0? I think this is deeper and messier, but let's go to, let's transform into segment 2.
And what I'm going to do really quick, Beth, I know I'm throwing this curveball, but what I'm going to do really quick is actually jump to the third segment because I think it's shorter, so we can end on Transformers because I know Andy has more to add to that as well. So let me do this. Let's just take a quick pivot, and we're going to just look at Pomeli. I have to keep looking at the name on there, and I don't have much to share. That's why I think this will be awful quick. But I did just see this come up on social this morning, and so I just wanted to share it really quick. Now, this is not what the home screen looks like. The home screen, do I have it? Can I just show it really quick? Give me 1 second. I'm pulling it over here. Maybe.
Yeah, Gwen is saying Sam needs real people, kitchen research group. Like, does Sam have cousins? Go and hang with the cousins. Say things to the cousins before you say things to the world.
That's a good way to do it. This is inside Google Labs, Pomeli, and you can see it over here on the left. You could try it now. I did not have to join those. Sometimes with these experiments in Google Labs, you have to join a list. I didn't. I got access to it immediately. In fact, it didn't even really care what account I was on. So I think literally anybody can go play with this. Now, once you go in there, basically you just give it a website. That's the only real input. And then after that, but that's why I'm showing you this because it failed quite a bit. I just ran this on Scaled. And if you look here and you look at business DNA and campaigns, oh, here you go. This is what it looks like as soon as it's done. Now, what it did with it was it pulled in colors from scale.com, and it also pulled in a whole lot of images on there. And that's pretty much as far as it goes. Now you can go in and it didn't pull in the logo. So I was able to add the logo myself, which is super cool. And these are the right colors down here. I'd have to double check with our folks that do our brand assets, whether that's in fact the right font or not. And then it just pulled in a whole bunch of images here. And then if you go over to campaigns, well, then you can say like what you want to do. So I just said, as an example, because I happen to be teaching these classes, I want to create a campaign for our new AI sales agent certification courses that are currently in their first cohorts. We run one for sales reps and another for sales managers. Let's focus on the sales managers. And then what it does down here is it says it's like, here's recent campaigns. If I click on one of these, this is saying it's about 2 minutes to run, but it's like, here's a series of creatives to post for this campaign. You can edit, delete, and generate more to it. So I could add more myself. I could swap out images. Or if I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have used this rep, I would have used Jake, our CEO here. I guess the idea here is that I could quickly swap this out. So I don't think this is revolutionary, but where I see this being super, super valuable, you can see it's running a little slow at the moment because I think a lot of people have jumped on. Again, it's not gated. So a lot of people have jumped in really quick to try to use it, which is great. I would be using this with clients. Depends on what kind of work you do, but I see a lot of value in being able to throw in a potential somebody in your pipeline, or it's a current client or whatever. And this might be a great way for you to demonstrate what you can do for them, the solutions you provide, but doing it in a way that feels more warm and welcoming using their brand assets without actually having their brand assets. So assuming this works very, very quickly, you could imagine you could go really quickly, go to any website, pull this in, throw in maybe a logo or whatever, talk about the campaign that's your campaign that you're trying to pitch to them. And now you can maybe make some campaign assets that you could always throw in an email, or obviously you could put these in decks and things like that. They do all appear to be these 916 format. I don't know if that's if that's something I can change or not, but you guys get the idea. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, really all I can say at this point is go check it out. You would go to labs.google.com and you should see Pomeli right there on the left, like I just showed you on the screen. And go play with it. And I tried She Leads AI. I tried our website for the Daily AI Show, and they didn't pull in images, but I was also getting notifications that they were experiencing a lot of bandwidth right now. And so I would imagine that's more the issue, because the scaled one took almost 10 minutes to do. But then the others were running really fast, but they didn't have any images. So maybe give it a day, maybe try it on the weekend, something like that. But it's very cool. I think it's like one of those sort of AI solutions that you go, oh, I'd use that immediately, So, all right.
One question on this. I don't know if anyone knows or any in the audience knows. Do you remember Facebook itself, like Meta itself, they either launched it or they were saying they were going to launch it, something kind of similar to this, where it will generate the ads for you inside the Meta or Instagram or Meta ad platform. Now I don't know if that's actually launched, but when this came out, I thought, I kind of thought that was kind of similar, but I'm not sure if anyone remembers that.
I've heard that too, and that makes sense. Like if you just go into, I mean, look, it's been years, but 2015 or so, I was running Facebook ads through the ad manager for clients. I was helping somebody who had already set that up, and I was doing that. And even back then, it was difficult to run multiple concurrent ads, and I was just dipping my toe in the water. So I would think, Karl, if it's creating ad assets for you and helping you split test 4 different ad creatives in 4 different colors. That's what I remember seeing in the news, is that they were creating that sort of solution. It's great for Facebook, by the way, because you're paying cost per click and stuff. And at least back in the day, it could have changed drastically. So I'm 11 years removed from this, but you would run it, you would check the numbers, you would drop things almost immediately. You'd let some winners stay up. We sort of see this with YouTube right now with the changes in title and thumbnails. You might see one day, and on my TV screen the next day I'll see a different title or a completely different thumbnail for the same video because it A/B split tested it one. or ABC split test, and it won out. So we've seen this for emails all the time. And I think it's just obvious that it's going to move its way into visuals, campaigns. And why wouldn't Facebook want you to have this? Because it just means you're going to spend more money. If you only, in the past, if you were only going to do 3 campaigns and split test them because that's what you physically had time to create, and Facebook creates you 10 and says, we'll set all these up right now to test, and whatever win will keep going after 24 hours. You just spent a whole lot more money on your ad campaigns with Facebook. It's like an awesome model if they decide to do that and fix it. It's like printing money, really, at that point. You're going to test them, So, by the way, Garrett said, I think there's 4 sizes. I did just click in, like when you see the top-down one, it does say duplicate, and it says same size feed, which is a 4-5, or square, which is a 1-1. So you have 3 different sizes, it appears, which is cool. So anyway, there's that. And then, let's just take, I know we don't have a ton of time, but let's just take a little bit of time left to talk about one of the main topics, which is really just Transformers. Now, Transformers sort of hit the mainstream in 2017 for a paper that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, is the most cited professional research paper of all time. I believe so. It's called "Attention Is All You Need." It will live on in history as one of the more important research papers to come out because of what came after it, which is really what we know as modern Gen AI, came past that really only since 2017. Now you have, including one of the original co-authors, saying, look, I'm sick. Well, the word is literally, I'm sick of Transformers. And that was Lillian Jones, who is with one of our favorite companies right now, Sakana, and he's the CTO there. But he is one of the co-authors of that original paper in 2017. And he was saying he's absolutely sick. And that comment reflects the concern that the field is stuck optimizing a local maximum rather than searching for the better solutions on it. But he's not the only one, because we've heard, not recently, but certainly beating this drum, is Jan LeCun, another pioneer in the AI space. Karl, you've spoken about him quite a while. He's met as chief AI scientist, but I always get the kind of impression that I don't think Jan has a whole lot of controls over what he can or can't do inside of it. He's a good name to be attached to Meta, but I wouldn't imagine he's getting a whole lot of top-down do this or don't do this from Zuckerberg or whatever, right? No. That's not kind of why he's there. He's there to do his research.
Zuckerberg needs him way more than LeCun.
Right.
Zuckerberg.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with that. So he's also talked about it, and you may be more familiar with Karl. I know you've certainly talked about this: System 1 versus System 2 thinking. His critique really leans on the idea that he says there's 2 different examples here. Is a 4-year-old child processes approximately 10 to the 14 bytes of sensory data through vision alone, compared to an LLM's trained on roughly 10 to the 13 bytes of only text. And so he's saying, look, we're not going to get to the next level of human intelligence on text. It's just never going to happen. He's also talks about they lack representations in the physical world. So a 17-year-old can learn to drive in 20 hours. We have millions of hours of driving data, but still no reliable self-driving cars, indicating that, quote, we've missed something really, really big. And then finally, Andre Karpathy, who didn't talk directly about Transformers, but just recently, I mean, we talked about him this week, I think it was earlier in the week, not specifically talking about Transformers, but talking about how far away we are from perhaps agents, and calling it a decade of agents, not the year of agents and stuff, which if you were to follow that through line, I think it would point back to the idea that Transformers perhaps just aren't going to get us where we need to be. So that's just sort of my kickoff to that. Andy, I know you had a little bit more to share, and then anybody else as well, but it's weird, right? Like, you're seeing people kind of like push back on it, but it seems to also be for all the right reasons, which is to say, look, throw the balloons, have a confetti party, whatever it is, get the birthday cake out. Transformers have been amazing, but we cannot continue to push down this line. It's just not going to get us to the next level of AI. So we need to think outside of it. And perhaps Lillian Jones is saying it's been holding us back because we're too focused in this area. Thoughts?
In terms of, this is why he keeps mentioning obviously world models, but I also think this is and Sam has mentioned this a couple times, and it's gone kind of under the radar, where he's talking about Sora, then he puts in a line as we need information about the world, or whatever he says in very few bits and pieces. But I'm thinking this is part of what they're using Sora for, is getting that physical feedback, how people are creating and what they're creating out of it. I think that's kind of the reason why that's there. I think there's like, yes, kind of social app. Yes, you can create stuff, but that's also gathering information to be part of that piece, like the world, kind of a world model-ish piece, that then can do exactly what Jan LeCun was talking about. But yeah, like from a transformer side, I think Andre Karpathy would probably agree. Jan LeCun for sure is like, to get to artificial general intelligence, you have to take in, it has to be able to take in the world, and a large language model really can't take in all that information in the world at once and in real time to make like a robot that like put AGI into a robot. Like that's, I guess, what one of the things they're looking at.
Right. And this goes back to what we were talking about with Andy, maybe on Tuesday, about forgetting, because the reason that a 17-year-old can learn to drive isn't just in their ability to obtain the information physically, visually, auditorially, but also discard the information that's going to get in the way of the most important things to pay attention to. And it is also why you tell your 17-year-old not to have the radio on in the car and not to talk to their friends, because if something supersedes that knowledge, now they're not using all of their frontal cortex and their understanding of how driving works in a safe way, right? So, like, yeah, I mean, you should watch us every day, because every day is important and we're talking about all the good stuff, but also this is a key part of it. It's not just the world model, it's how you prioritize the world model and access it in that order, I think.
And I need to throw another name in here too, Fei Li, who is extremely instrumental to this area of it. Now, she's the CEO of World Labs, and they focus on building world large models. She's also a known scientist and has done a lot of research, and is, she was known for creating ImageNet and generally pushing AI forward. She's a really, really important person. And she has World Labs is based on this idea of spatial data and world data and being outside of text. So another name to definitely keep in this conversation. Not that I've heard her recently, comment on Transformers, but just based on her work and where her focus is, I think it's understood that it seems to be going beyond that as well. So, any thoughts here as we sort of like wrap up today, or you want to sort of talk? I want to
mention one other person who's been an early skeptic on the ultimate potential of Transformers, and that's Gary Marcus. And I mentioned him a few times on the show, but he's definitely a thought leader in this space. And he's being justified now by all of these major other thought leaders turning around and validating his point of view that all of this huge investment was going to reach a plateau and there was going to be diminishing returns on transformer investments. And we've spent billions of dollars, like trillions of dollars, building out these capabilities. Well, what's wrong with transformers? Let me talk about that. Just a little superficial technicality here. So transformers work in a way that they predict next token based on all the prior tokens and all the tokens in their context. And that's a computationally very intensive, expensive process. And it's very effective. We're very happy with the capabilities that transformers have given us, but it's too expensive and it's reached its limit in many ways. So they are just statistical pattern recognizers and emulators, and they don't really have understanding or robust reasoning. They can generate text that resembles reasoning, but they're not performing genuine logical deduction. So there's a logical deficiency in it as well. let me talk about in reference what Karl brought forward, which is they lack built-in world models. They learn statistical relationships between words rather than underlying causal principles. So to ground real intelligence, you have to be able to represent or reason about physical, psychological, or causal reality. And this is core requirements for general intelligence, but they aren't capable of that. And let me just talk quickly about the computational expense of this. So remember, it's predicting every next token. And if it's going to generate a long document for you, what it does is every time it adds a new token, which is a fraction of a word, it then has to recompute everything, including all the prior delivered tokens, in order to include what its last prediction was in order to generate the next token. So what happens here is something called quadratic complexity. So the computational cost of the attention mechanism, that's what attention means, is I've got to look back at everything I've done before and consider that as relevant to the next prediction that I make. Well, that attention mechanism increases by the square of the sequence length. It doesn't just go up by, oh, I've added new tokens, so it goes up by that many tokens. It's squared because of the way that the multiplication works in the transformer system. Okay, so a twice as long text takes 4 times as much compute. 4 times as much text is 16 times as much compute. So there's theoretical limits and the prohibitive expense for long context calculations. And so all these critics of transformers are recognizing these things and saying there's got to be some future investment in alternatives to transformers in order for us to circumvent these limitations. And what's happened instead is that all of the players have been investing all of their money in optimizing existing transformers, which is a legitimate effort, right? And there are techniques, algorithmic and otherwise, to get transformers to work more efficiently. But there's going to be probably breakthroughs that happen. And what these critics that we're talking about now are saying is, hey, we've got to stop putting all our money in this one basket, transformers. We need to start opening up the research culture to do things that may not pan out, but we have to invest in those in order to discover, to be exploratory and discover what the next wave of on the path towards artificial general intelligence is. And I did a show recently where I talked about some of those alternatives, and I'm just going to recite a few of them. Mamba, the selective state space models, is not a transformer, but they're sometimes paired with a transformer in order to capture the knowledge that a transformer's training has achieved with all those billions of investments, but also brings a different architectural calculation and reasoning capability to it. There's another one called RWKV, receptance weighted key value. And it's a hybrid that trains like a transformer, but operates more efficiently during inference. And then you've got the advocates like Gary Marcus of neurosymbolic logic, right? Neurosymbolic logic, which isn't the way transformers work. They're just doing pattern matching. And the neural networks with verifiable logical operations are really the sort of the holy grail in his view. And then there's also a bunch of other ones, the neuromorphic computing space, which is imitating the way the brain works. And one of the technologies there is spiking neural networks. And then we've talked about Kolmogorov-Arnold networks, which is a different form of calculation. And then Jan LeCun's vision is the world models approach. We've got to go after world models, just like humans learn in physical reality. That has to be the basis for training, not just text.
Right.
Okay, there's going to be a quiz on that afterwards. So
no, I think it's super helpful. Do you think 2026 is the year where we see one of these paths emerge as sort of a leader, or do you think it's just going to be more, splintered investment into one of them clearly? I guess
there's such a huge investment in the computational infrastructure, like Nvidia's valuation at $5 trillion, the most valuable company in the world. That company is invested in transformer computation. And there's lots of other sort of structural impediments to our going swiftly down a path that's going to be more efficient and approximate AGI more directly. So I think it's going to take more than next year. This is not we can turn the ship around in 1 year. But 4 or 5 years from now, I think we will see alternatives to transformers. But transformers are really good. Wow, we're amazed at what transformers can do.
And that's the thing for Gary Marcus's view being vindicated. Like in that narrow space, it was vindicated. But Gary Marcus has also been sort of like, this isn't going to, it's all going to burst and this isn't going to do anything. And again, if nothing else changed from now, this is as good as it's ever going to be. It's still a transformative technology.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah.
And the news story I didn't get to today, but maybe we'll bring it in tomorrow. Xtropic is not a transformer model technology; it's a chip technology, right? Yeah. But it's probability based, and I'm curious if humans actually in our pattern matching are also probability based. Right? Are we just making probability calculations and moving through the world with like, I think this is the right thing, and then learning from that if the Xtropic chip gets us much closer or for way less energy? Certainly in certain systems where probability is fine, not complete accuracy.
Well, I saw that news too. And so let's do this. Let's bring that up. We'll make it maybe the first news topic of tomorrow, which is the fun part about kind of hitting news more frequently than when we were doing, where it was just on Wednesdays. Hey, by the way, if you're a frequent listener of us, you'd like to leave us a comment on any of the platforms really, but YouTube as well. Or in our community, by the way, you can go to the dailyishowcommunity.com and join our free Slack community. You can certainly leave comments there. But we're curious to hear what you guys think. I mean, this whole month, now this would be our 4th week of doing this. We've had sort of a different program where we didn't pick one topic for a show or just news on Wednesday, and we sort of just broke it up. Obviously, you're hearing a lot more free-flowing conversations and things pivot a little bit within the show. And maybe we talk too long about robots and dishes, but we get off the track and we have to have people bring us back on track. But let us know. I mean, if you guys like this format, I mean, obviously we want to know from you guys. I think I enjoy it more, but that doesn't mean it's for everybody. So just curious what you guys think. We haven't really seen any drop off in terms of people listening on platforms. So it looks okay from there, but obviously we'll take your guys' feedback. We would love to hear it, as we've sort of used all of October as our test. Now, tomorrow's the last day of October. It also happens to be Halloween. So come on back tomorrow for a spooky episode. No, we don't really have any Halloween themes. Maybe we'll come up with one. We'll think of some spooky stories, AI stories to share along the way. But come on back tomorrow and hang out with us. We'll be here. Thank y'all for being here today. Thanks for all the comments. As always, you guys are amazing. Love you guys. Love bringing in those comments into the live show as well. And like I said, I just fixed, well, I didn't say it, but I fixed the link. So, hey, you can actually join our community. The link works. So go to the dailyishowcommunity.com. Yeah, I got to remember that Slack only makes those available for 30 days and then you have to switch it. So it's probably been wrong for a while. Anyway. Lessons learned.
That sounds like an AI automation, actually. It doesn't even have to be AI. That sounds like a non-AI automation, actually.
Yeah, or just a calendar. Hey, Brian, go change it. So that's it. See you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.